Busy night in the weather world across the United States. Beryl is well inland and moving fairly quickly to the northeast. We've got all sorts of severe weather, a lot of tornadoes that have been produced by this hurricane, or once a hurricane, now weakening, but wreaking some havoc with heavy rains and severe weather from East Texas up as far north now as southern Missouri and into southern Illinois. The steam bath continues in the eastern part of the United States. You might have to wait till early next week to get a break. And they are broiling out in the western part of the U.S. Another day of excessive heat and record highs, and in some cases, all time record highs. So we'll cover it all as we do that all the time here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. The revolutionary Tempest weather system is yours for the asking. Get one and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this podcast. And if you use the coupon code,
Summer 2024,
you will get.
10% off.
That was very seamless. You know, I think that's a keeper. We don't have to do a take two. Okay. Um, Surprisingly, uh, this hurricane has been doing so many interesting things in its whole life cycle. Um, and I think maybe its last little surprise that it pulled out of the hat was not so much that it strengthened back to a hurricane last night before it made landfall, but and the top winds were only got to 80 miles an hour. But the one thing that I've noticed with the observations, it's taken a long time for this thing to wind down as far as the winds are concerned. And I was really surprised at how strong the wind gusts were away from the coast, up in the Houston area in particular, and points north. I mean, they were gusting 50 to 60 miles an hour or more for hours. And now, when I looked mid-afternoon on the radar, when I did my Weather in 5 video, which was at around 1:30 this afternoon, there were 6 tornado warnings that were issued. And then I was looking at the latest watches, warnings, and everything else. And on Tornado HQ, Joe, there's another 6 tornado warnings. And on the weather on the SPC website, as of as of late this afternoon, they've already had 10 tornadoes out of a barrel, and there's going to be more.
I believe the maximum wind gust at Houston, I heard on a news report earlier today, 90 miles per hour.
Wow.
And of course, they got dumped on with tremendous amounts of rainfall. Somebody on the chat board said, "Oh, I think they got more damage than they expected." Well, I mean, they knew what was coming. So please tell me exactly what damage they were anticipating from.
I have such a tough time with that phrase because it's used so often where they say, "Oh, they got more damage than expected or less damage than expected." I mean, what exactly? Like you're right. What exactly did they expect? We can't tell you ahead of time how many trees are going to be down, or if they're going to be trees down, or wires down, or houses crumbling. That's not what we do.
And 3 million people as of right now in Texas without power. And Lord only knows how long it's going to take to get 3 million people back online.
Yes, correct. And this is they've had certainly their fair share of rough weather in the last few months with flash flooding and everything else from other weather systems that they've had to deal with. We're going to take a look at Joe Rayo's going to get the radars ready, and while he's doing that, I am going to say a big hello to everybody tonight on the chat board, and those of you watching in the background. Welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We're on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. The occasional Friday and Saturday when there's a storm around. If you like the show, hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn the notifications on so um, you don't miss us. And one other thing I just want to mention with respect to Beryl is the fact that I meant to say this last night. Uh, there's a history of storms strengthening at the last minute along the Texas coast. So it was no surprise that this was in strengthening mode. And maybe if it had another 6 or 8 hours, it would have been a strong cat two, or maybe even gotten to a cat three. But my point is that it coming into a landfall when when a system is strengthening is probably not a good thing, because usually that's when you get the kind of things that you saw today, as you said, the gusts to over 90 miles an hour in Houston, which is not near the coast. When it made landfall, I did notice there were a number of coastal stations with gusts over 80 miles an hour. Uh, it's just like when you see developing thunderstorms, when they're in their development phase, and you get a thunderstorm, they tend to be rather vicious. And I think the same applies to tropical systems. When they're intensifying and they're making landfall while they're intensifying, I think that makes things a bit worse than they otherwise would be.
Yeah, well, if you're going to, as I said last night, if you're going to be dealing with a hurricane and you're making it depend, is it going to be a cat one or a cat two? It don't make any difference, because if you're on the coast or even a little ways inland, you're talking about winds to over 75 miles per hour at times, at least in gusts. And you're talking about torrential rains, and you're talking about the potential for tornadic activity. So, is there really going to be much of a difference between a one and a two for the short time that the thing is going to be in your
No,
vicinity? I doubt very much. I mean, your home is going to suffer badly, whether it's a one or a two. And of course, now 3 million people. Joe, think about this now. You lived down in, Corpus Christi for a while. Imagine now going, several days without air conditioning in an area that is
yeah,
well known for extreme levels of humidity, high dew point temperatures, and also very warm to hot temperature. I don't know. I would be like a caged animal if I didn't have
yeah,
that.
that's not good. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing at
No.
all. So let's hope they are able to get people back up on power as quickly as they can. I'm sure they're working feverishly to do that and having to clear a lot of down trees. But let's take a look at, why don't you bring up some radars? We can take a look at what's going on there, shall
Okay.
we?
Surely if you give me the
Oh yeah, yeah. Hang on a second. I'm sorry. La, da, da, da. Here we go. I gotta press this little button that allows Joe to put radars up or anything else he wants to put up. So
okay,
you're all set to go.
good. Let me see. Well,
And by the
what?
way, they're at the moment on Tornado HQ. We have 5 severe thunderstorm warnings, 6 tornado warnings, 2 special marine warnings, and those are distributed. The 4 in Arkansas, 2 in Florida, 2 in Illinois, and 4 in Louisiana. As far as the severe weather warnings are concerned at this very moment. And by the way, that does not count a bunch of flash flood warnings that are up.
All right. Well, let's check out those radars. And the first place we're going to go to tonight, Joe, is Shreveport, Louisiana. And I do that because Shreveport is showing quite a squall line associated with the remnants of Beryl. Now, Beryl, I would presume, is up here somewhere in the northeast corner of Texas, continuing to move rapidly to the north and northeast. It'll probably be over southwesternmost Arkansas in the next few hours. But look at this line that is evident on the Shreveport radar. It's a narrow line, but it's a line that is embedded with heavy duty activity. And I'm sure that this is where some of those tornado watch or tornado warnings are coming from. A very, very potent strand of activity, which again is associated with Beryl. Now, if we move, let's say, away from Shreveport. Let's go one city further south. Oh, I'm sorry, not available. Unavailable for requested dates. This was
Where were you going?
KPOE, which they don't tell me on, but it's south of Shreveport. Let's see if here's Lake Charles. Oh, now this is an even better view of that squall line. Look at that
Which is,
line.
by the way, moving at a very fast clip. And the other, I just want to point out real quick when you had the Shreveport radar up, and we talked about last night how as these storms move up and gain latitude and they start to lose their pure tropical characteristics, all the heavy rain shifts to the west side, and then you get, it starts to look more frontal. And if you just think back to what Joe had up with the Shreveport radar, that's exactly what's happening right now. And yeah, that's impressive. That squall line that's whipping to the east there across Louisiana. Because
Here,
the actual center is at the base of that comma now, that comma. So now all the rain, the heavy rain, is more west of the center and north, and actually extends all the way up into southern Illinois. So yeah, that this is what happens, folks. This is how it happens once they get inland.
well, we said this last night that from a climatological standpoint, from many many years of study, that tropical cyclones, when they do go inland, the place where you will get the most wind usually is to the east or to the right of the storm track, and the place that you'll see the most rain is usually to the left of the storm track or to the west. And what we're seeing basically, Joe, is the low pressure storm system, which was once the remnants of Beryl, here, and we're seeing a cold front. This cold front, I'm making the assumption, swinging rapidly to the east, and behind it, I would guess there's going to be a punch of somewhat drier and lower dew point air that is helping to set the stage for those heavy duty showers and storms that you see here. Again, not a very wide line, and actually a narrow, snaky kind of line, but if you happen to be in that area for 15 or 20 minutes as that thing is going through at that rather rapid speed, I would say, what, 20, 30 miles per hour,
Yeah,
you're going to be in for some rock'em sock'em weather. And that's also enough to, again, possibly touch off, if not tornadic activity, maybe localized straight line winds or even a microburst or two. So that's one of the earmarks of a landfalling tropical cyclone or a landfalling hurricane is you get this type of activity, and that's what we're seeing exactly right now over the western end of Louisiana. Let me just go a little further to the north. Let's go up to. I think this might be actually a little bit too far to the west. Yeah, but you still see this is Dallas Fort Worth, and Dallas has been pretty much on the periphery, the edge of storm or rain activity from Beryl ever since it made landfall. All the really heavy artillery has been hitting to the east and to the south of Dallas, case in point, Houston. And here you see that heavy rain well to the east of Dallas, moving again away to the north and northeast. But you're also getting, as you can see here, on the return flow, that northwesterly flow behind the storm system, you're getting some embedded showers and locally strong thunderstorm activity, which is coming down from the north, from the north and northeast, again behind Beryl. And again, here would be Dallas. So maybe some of the northern and western suburbs of Dallas is receiving some local heavy showery rain or thunderstorm activity. And again, all of that is coming not up from the south, but down from the north and northwest on the backside of the storm itself.
yeah. The I'm just looking at some new info. The actual center is at 32.2 north, 94.8 west. So it's now downgraded to a tropical depression. So pretty soon they're going to probably make it post-tropical anyway. And moving northeast at 16 miles an hour. We've got just a point of reference. Give me 1 second here. I'm just pulling up the new advisory. So 30 miles east southeast of Tyler, Texas. 225 miles southwest of Little Rock, Texas. That is where it is. All tropical storm and storm surge warning. There was a small portion of the Texas coast from Galveston to Port Arthur that they still had tropical storm warnings up. So those have all taken down. So now all warnings are done, and you'll probably uh, that's probably on the next advisory. That might wind up being the last one. Also, in the parishes of Jackson, Lincoln, Clachita, and Union Parish in Louisiana, there is a. It's funny because I've never heard of those parishes. Um, Tornado warning is up near Jonesboro. Oh, wait a minute. Well, northeast of Jonesboro and moving north at 40. But they got LA here as the warning states. I wonder if they mean Arkansas. Let me just take a look and see. Hold on. Uh,
Right now on the screen, I have the radar out of North Little Rock, Arkansas, and you can see that Little Rock and surrounding areas, the immediate areas are not getting anything or much of anything. It's all basically to the west, where all of the activity from Beryl, or the remnants of Beryl, is moving again on a south to north trajectory through western Arkansas and bordering the northern portion or the north boundary of Louisiana. So there you go. That's where it all
yeah.
is
And,
taking place.
and this tornado warning, these are parishes in north central Louisiana. I worked in southeast Louisiana, so I really didn't have much, really didn't talk about the northern part of the state very much, except when it snowed up there in the wintertime every once in a while. But that was that. All right. I guess we could go from here. Why don't we go? I'm going to bring up the satellite loop and we can take a look at what this thing looks like now as it continues to move northeastward. And there you see it. I'm using the floater imagery, which keeps the storm kind of right in the center of the picture. And it also goes back to the early morning hours before sunrise. And you notice how the convection exploded just as it was moving the coast. The landfall was near Matagorda in Texas this morning as it moved in, and still has that circular signature to it, although as it starts to move up to the north, we're seeing how it looks like on the radar, and it is probably just going to become an identifiable remnant low that's going to carry itself along. But it's moving quickly and spreading up the clouds and the heavy rain and the thunderstorms on up to the northeast. And this is what it looks like on the wide radar view. And as I was saying before, the green boxes here that you see are all flash flood warnings, and there's a bunch of them in northeast Texas and northwest Louisiana. Also, a bunch of flash flood warnings now in southern Missouri. There's a band of heavy rain that's moved up pretty far to the north of from the center, and there's also a cluster of severe thunderstorm warnings in west central Illinois and some flash flood warnings in southeastern Missouri and into southern Illinois. One flash flood warning there in southern Illinois comes and goes rather quickly. So we're going to watch this as it continues to progress. Meanwhile, the radars in the northeast are pretty dead. A couple of pop-up storms in central PA, west of Harrisburg and west of I-81. A couple of pop-ups in Maine, and a little bit of a cluster there in southeast Virginia and into eastern North Carolina, and that's it. They get a bit more numerous in southern Georgia and northern and central Florida, particularly in the inland areas in Florida. And then going northwest back up into Alabama, we have a cluster of storms running up along I-85 and back up toward I-20 in Alabama near Birmingham. So there's that. And of course, there's not much of anything going on except for a few showers in northern New Mexico. The West is just, they're dealing with their own issue there with regards to the heat. And speaking of the heat, I'm going to jump up. These were the high temperatures today, Joe. Philadelphia takes the trophy for the hot spot today in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, 99
Wow.
in Philadelphia. Uh, Caldwell got to 95, and Waldwick in northern New Jersey in northeastern Bergen County 95. And Terrytown, Joe, you know Terrytown very well, 95 for a high there, while White Plains and LaGuardia were only 91, believe it or not, for highs. And Newark only getting to 93. I was thinking about the fact that this time, when LaGuardia Airport was under construction, this would be a day where, everybody's like 90, low to mid 90s. This is where LaGuardia would come in at like 100
Yeah,
on
no
a day. And,
question.
and it seems now that that's all done, that uh, the numbers there at LaGuardia now are a lot better than when they were doing all the building.
Yeah, that you could. They have. I've been to LaGuardia twice now in the last 2 weeks, and I can tell you that it is all cleaned up. Everything, and it's a beautiful airport. If you've not been to LaGuardia lately, if you remember it as, you know, the old third world type airport, and then when they were tearing all that down and all the construction, what a mess that was, and that was part of the reason why for a few years it was on days like this close to 100 degrees. But now everything is cleared up, everything is clean. It's a lovely, lovely place to be. And by the way, here in Putnam Valley, we got to 94. By the way, I was watching. You were watching ABC Evening News. I was watching CBS with Nora O'Donnell, and they show this blows my mind. Today, Las Vegas, Nevada, got to 120 degrees, the all-time high for any month in Las Vegas. And you know what people were doing with 120-degree temperatures? They were going out and they were actually driving into Las Vegas simply to be able to stand. There was some kind of a digital thermometer, and they were standing in front of they're taking pictures in front of the thermometer of 120 degrees. I think it was like 53 degrees Celsius, 120 Fahrenheit. And I'm saying to myself, this is what you're doing in what the National Weather Service would call life or death type heat. Now, I know 120 degrees, the humidity was probably much, much, much lower. The dew point temperature is much lower than what you would see anywhere in the Northeast. But still, for goodness sake, 120 degrees, and people purposely going out there to stand out in that brutal heat. Oh, wait, take a picture of me, Frank. Take a picture of me in front of the thermometer. Yeah, I'll put it on social media. But is it worth it? Is it worth going out in that extreme heat and getting a picture of 120? It's crazy. People are
Yeah,
crazy,
and having your shoes melt.
and having your shoes melt. I'm sure that the rubber in some sneakers or whatever like that, it probably was sticking to the ground at 120 degrees. Don't forget, of course, that's in the shade. That's in the
Right.
shade. What was the temperature in the sun? Like 170 degrees?
Yeah.
Crazy,
Well,
crazy.
I'm gonna move the map over to show the highs there because they're at the hottest time of the day. But Carroll County Regional Airport in Maryland got to 100. They're currently 91, but they got to 100. So did Buckhannon Upshur County Regional Airport in West Virginia got to 100 today, and it was a lot of upper 90s. Baltimore Bewee got to 99. Uh, Gaithersburg. I'm thinking, I don't know which one it is. Got to 97. Camp Springs 96. Fort Belvoir 96. Washington D.C. I don't have an ob for Washington. Frederick Municipal Airport got to 97. So it was really hot. And actually, just for point of reference, Atlanta only got to 91 today, and 91 at the Blairsville Airport, Joe, in downtown Blairsville. And me on the mountain, I got to 89. So there was only a 2-degree difference there. And as we head out west and check out the heat problems there, let me just get to, uh, let's see what's going on here. I think that 120, all right, that's Flagstaff. I got all this terrain I'm trying to figure out. That's not it. Okay, come on. Oh, here we go. All right. So Harry Reid Airport, regional airport today in Las Vegas, 115. Okay, was the high. I think the 120 was yesterday. 115 today. Uh, that was the high temperature, and the current temperature is 113. Would you like to take a wild guess at what the dew point is?
Well, I can see it right there. 22 Fahrenheit at 113.
22. 4% relative humidity of 4%. Okay. I mean, could it I guess it could be drier to have a 0% relative humidity and have no dew point at all. But I God, Jesus. We've got a 125 here, Saratoga Spring, California. Not to be confused with Saratoga Springs in upstate New York, which is, you know, racing begins there, I think, on Thursday or Friday. Uh, but 125, Joe, 125, a dew point of 24, and a relative humidity of 3%. 3%.
Right.
Um, Borrego Valley Airport in California, 120. Oh, it's humid here, Joe. 6% relative humidity with a
Wow.
39 dew point. Um, Fish Creek Mountains, 121. Okay. Chihulia, California, 120 with a dew point of 47. That's wrong. Uh,
47? What are you, crazy?
yeah, no, it says 47 there, but then it says relative humidity 99%. So it's either 4 or 7. Um, just trying to look at some of these other numbers. 117 with a dew point of 30 at the Daggett Barstow Airport. That's a 5% relative humidity. And um, oh, these dew points are just ridiculous. And
They're ridiculous. And I've been to Las Vegas twice. The first time in 2012, it was close to 100 degrees. But you know what was the killer? It wasn't the humidity. It was the fact that we were there during an extreme period of wind. The winds were blowing at like 20 and 30 miles an hour. And let me tell you, you go to Las Vegas with 100 degrees and the wind is blowing in your face at 20 to 30. It feels like somebody is aiming a 1500-watt hair dryer at
yeah,
your face.
I
It was
imagine I
I
imagine that's the case.
well, we went out, and that was in 2012. It was my wife, my daughter, and we were driving. We drove from Los Angeles and Las Vegas back to Arizona, and we encountered a dust storm or a sandstorm or a haboob or whatever they call it. You don't want to do that. that was an experience because again the winds were so very strong and gusty at that time. So people say, "Oh, it's no problem. It's a dry heat." Yeah, it's a dry heat, but you don't want to. I've noticed the temperatures that you're showing out there today, Joe, and dew points. They got wind speeds of what, 3 miles, 4 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Hey, that's no big deal. But multiply that by about a factor of 7 or 8. Make it a 25 or even a 30 mile an hour wind, and tell me that you're going to be nice and comfortable with that.
By the way, it's a dry heat all the way up the west, through the west. I'm just pushing up some numbers. Rogue Valley International Airport, 108 with a dew point of 44. So the relative humidity there is 11%. Roseburg Regional Airport is uh, this is at 108, the high and the current temperature, and they've got a dew point of 42, so that works out to a relative humidity of 11%. Um, Eugene, Eugene, uh, Eugene, nah,
That Oregon?
yeah, Eugene, Oregon. Forget the rest of it. It's an airport. 106, I can't pronounce it. 49 dew point, 15% humidity, and it's 106, which is the high for the day. I'm just moving my way further north just to take a look at Portland. Portland International Airport is at 101, and their dew point is 54. So they got a relative humidity of 21%. And in Seattle, where nobody has air conditioning, Boeing Field, 93. It's the high there, 94. Dew point of 47. That's reasonable. Fort Lewis, 97 with a dew point of 42. And you got a lot of 100-degree readings inland. Ellensburg, hours, 103, dew point 32, humidity 8. You get the idea, folks. It's hot and it's dry out in the western part of the United States. And when you look at the watches and warnings, you got all sorts of excessive heat warnings and heat advisories in the western part of the United States. We've got a lot of heat advisories from southeastern and southern New England and through a good chunk of upstate New York, except north of I-90, heading south to Long Island, New Jersey, much of the eastern half of Pennsylvania, except the extreme northeast. Maryland, Delaware, most of Virginia, except the western part of the state, getting into North Carolina. Then there's a break, and then you've got heat advisories in central and southwest Georgia, back over into Alabama, Mississippi, southeastern Louisiana, and parts of southern Florida. And there's the full U.S. satellite loop. And now the next question is going to be, how much, if any, of this shower and thunderstorm activity is going to make it up into the Northeast. And I think it's, as we spoke about yesterday, that this was, the GFS was trying to do something that this just didn't seem realistic, and it's not going to happen. We're going to take this surface low well to the west of the Appalachians and eventually move it into southern Canada and maybe up the St. Lawrence River Valley. So if there's going to be heavy rains, it's probably going to be upstate New York and New England, as well as those areas from Missouri into Illinois, Indiana, and probably into Michigan and portions of Ohio. The WPC folks have a strip of this is 7-day rainfall, so this goes to next Monday night, but most of this is from Beryl. They've got this strip of an inch and a half to as much as 3 inches. Now, for some of this area, it's on top of what's already fallen, but that extends from northeast Texas into Michigan. Then a bit of a break, but it's still, inch and a half numbers on the Canada side of Lake Huron and Lake Erie. Then it picks up again in upstate New York to 2 inches plus into Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And actually, Joe, they got the back edge of the inch and a half cutting down central Massachusetts, northwest, Connecticut to almost to southwest Connecticut to just touching New York City into western New Jersey, down into the Delmarva Peninsula. So WPC seems to be maybe getting on the idea here that, okay, the main rain from Beryl is going to go by further north, but there's probably going to be some sort of frontal boundary that's going to
Right.
extend southward. Maybe, how you saw that squall band that we showed you on the radar that extended like a stick. Well, maybe there's going to be some kind of, feeder of moisture that sets up along the I-95 corridor. And this is what, this is why maybe they have this, stretch of an inch and a half to 2 inches plus from New England all the way down into North Carolina.
Yeah, it would not be surprising if we had, with the remnants of Beryl passing off to our north, if, as you just mentioned, Joe, we had some kind of an upper level trough or maybe some kind of a frontal line moving through our area Thursday into Friday, which would be generating showers and scattered thunderstorms. Don't forget, for much of this week, we're going to be in a southerly flow, and that's going to bring in at least some moisture bring in some moisture from possibly from Beryl, if not from the southeastern United States. And so if you got any kind of a disturbance crossing through, interacting with that, you will see locally heavy shower or thunderstorm activity. Still too early in the game to really assess just how much or how heavy or how adverse the system is going to be for us. But of all the days coming up in the next several days coming up for us, the most likely time that we will be affected by showery and thundery weather would be probably Thursday into Friday. And again, the main bulk of the remnants of Beryl probably will be passing off to our north. I saw SPC comment, Joe, that in those areas near the path of the remnants of Beryl, this probably again would be north of here, watch out for the possibility of even a tornado or two that may get spawned. Still too early in the game to determine the exact criteria, whether or not the atmosphere will be unstable enough to kick off that kind of activity. But you get the impression later in the week, the activity we're seeing now down in Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas, in part, will be moving in our direction by the second half of this week.
I've highlighted on the upper air what's happening here, and this is from this morning when Beryl, just makes landfall. You can see all those, those circles there that are off along the Texas coast, those height lines representing where Beryl, came inland, and then you've got this upper trough that runs from Minnesota down into New Mexico. And by the way, on the other side of that trough, you've got a big upper high that is sitting right over Central California, pushing up into the Northwest. So now you understand why all the heat's out there. And of course, we've got this Bermuda high here that's north of Bermuda, and we also have an upper low that's sitting well off between that high and the southeast coast of the United States. There's a little bit of a cutoff low. But yeah, we're in this sort of southwest or south-southwest flow, at least for now. This trough swinging eastward, which is interacting with Beryl and picking it up, and it does exactly that as we go through tonight and tomorrow. That trough kind of hangs around the Great Lakes Wednesday into Thursday, and the upper flow becomes, stays southwest here. You're right. It's also coming out of the edge of that Bermuda High. So there's some kind of boundary here with this, the way this upper air is set up. There's just some kind of boundary right along the I-95 corridor, if it's probably the best way to describe it. You've got tropical moisture coming around the Bermuda High. You've got that short wave to the northwest. So it just sort of opens the door for some showers and thunderstorms. And, if there's enough activity, the one upside on that is, well, I guess a lot of folks are saying that they need the rain, but uh, the clouds and rain from resulting thunderstorms that'll be around might also hold the temperatures down later in the week. It's not going to bring the humidity down. You're going to have to wait. Now, the GFS is telegraphing what looks like a pretty nice looking trough here early next week that drops in from Canada, Joe, from Lake Winnipeg into southeastern Canada and, gets down pretty far south into the mid Atlantic states. I mean, this would at least clean the air up for a couple of days because after it pulls out, the ridge comes right back.
Exactly. For about a day or two, we have a northwest flow, so we have a dry flow. We have lower dew points and humidities, and hopefully maybe not quite as hot or as warm as what we have been experiencing. So if you're looking for a true break, and I mentioned yesterday, everybody was hoping yesterday would be a day where we'd have a noticeable dent in the humidity. That never happened. A noticeable dent in the dew point. But right now, from this vantage point, and again, things can change between now and let's say Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. But hopefully, the one chance of getting a bit of relief might be still about 7, 8, 9 days away. By the way, I noticed on the chat board our friend up in Alaska, Alfred K. Phillips, who's pointing out that in Wainwright, Alaska, where he is located, they're having a lovely, cold summer with temperatures hovering right around 40 degrees. Can't even
I,
imagine. I remember what 40 degrees feels like.
and I saw something today. Somebody posted the European ensembles. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but the European ensembles showing the ice coverage in the Arctic in the month of September to be like the largest in many years. So there's that. We'll see if it verifies. Um, the ice may be coming early to the Arctic region this year, coming back early after the summer's done. Anyway, here's Beryl, and you notice that tomorrow is going to be another day where, unless there's a sea breeze front, there's probably not going to be much of anything as far as a shower or thunderstorm is concerned. And then Wednesday, we start to get, the low tracks up into Indiana and Ohio. You see it there. And I agree with SPC um, and what you said earlier about the fact that this sort of setup here probably allows for risk for some fun of some tornadoes with a low and actually for July a fairly well developed low. 1,003 low in Northwest Ohio in July is nothing to you know it's not a that's fairly deep during a time of year where you don't see that very often. But that goes up to the north, and you see it there translating into the St. Lawrence Valley, and you get that little column of showers and storms along the coast Wednesday night into Thursday, and with that boundary staying there, there probably will be some showers and storms popping up Thursday and Friday. Doesn't rain all day, doesn't rain all the time. And then here comes a cold front from that upper low late Monday and Monday night into early Tuesday, where we got the timing here is probably going to have to be worked out. But that's a pretty solid cold front that comes through. So maybe we get into some hot weather back into the 90s at some point over the weekend and early next week. This would argue that next Monday could be a pretty hot day with a screaming west wind. And then here comes a cold front and a nice, some real dew point relief. Let's see what the dew points are. 2 meter dew point. Ah, there we go. So this would say that, well, the front comes through on Tuesday. So by Wednesday, Joe, it's got dew points in the 40s.
I'll see it when I'll feel it. I'll believe it.
Well, I understand, but I mean, we just, it was just a week or so ago where we had dew points down in the 40s. So it's not impossible.
The baseball AllStar Game, by the way, is next Tuesday, and it's too bad that the game is not going to be uh, somewhere in the Great Lakes or the Northeast. It's going to be down in Arlington, Texas. I believe, however, that they have a dome stadium in Arlington, so they don't have to worry about extreme heat or humidity. But it'd be nice to play an all-star game out in the fresh air. And it looks like hopefully next Tuesday here in the Northeast we will have a dose of fresh air from Canada, as our friend Norm DeVoskin used to refer to a cold front coming at this time of the year. It's a midsummer's night dream.
Yes, it is. Alfred K. Phillips adds, by the way, the Chukchi Sea region, AK-49 coast, will be snowing soon in the Brooks Range Mountains. It's already snowing, he says. And northern Alaska Arctic it's getting its cold weather from the Siberian Express. Well,
Well,
that's a little.
if you were to look at the Climate Prediction Center's forecasts, long range forecasts, 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 days, everywhere in the contiguous United States is projected to be above normal, in some cases, well above normal. The only state out of the 50, including Alaska and Hawaii, is Alaska, with below normal or below probabilities for or high probability of below normal temperatures. So if you want to go to a place that's nice and cool, and you can go to Alfred K. Phillips for verification here, that's Alaska.
Gotcha. All right. I think we pretty much covered everything. There's not a whole lot more to talk about. There's nothing else in the tropics at the moment. In the Pacific, in the East Pacific, there was a tropical storm, Aletta, formed and lasted for about, from breakfast to lunch, and that was that. And now there's nothing again, and there's just very quiet on the Pacific side. And maybe after these three storms that we had almost in succession here on the Atlantic side, we'll probably go into a calm spell for a little bit, and maybe it starts to pick up again as we get toward the latter part of the month of July. And we're already 8 days into it, so it won't be long before we'll be in the latter part of the month of July. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Rayo, before we say goodnight?
Do you want to do Brill or Jeopardy?
Do you have it?
I'm checking here with Mr. Briller. Oh, wait a minute. He couldn't, for some reason, he didn't send it the normal way. He sent it a different way, via my professional page and not my personal page.
Gotcha.
I just happened to see it. And he must have been having problems. Joe, he sent it, let me see. He sent it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He sent the same thing to me, same message to me 6 times. Then finally he said, "Sorry, Joe, for the repeat message. The original kept saying not send, so I kept sending it.
Yeah,
Sorry."
I had I caught on pretty quick though that even though it said it wasn't sent, it was sent. So yeah, but yeah, just ignore that message. It
All
it's
right.
astounding to me that that Facebook, when stuff doesn't work, uh, it takes them forever to fix it. So anyway, of course they're
Anyway,
watching this. Of course they're watching this show very carefully to find reasons to block us. But anyway, go on, Joe.
Briller Jeopardy average high temperatures in July. Average July high temperatures for these foreign cities.
Oh, good God!
Not these are not United States cities or state capitals or whatever. These are foreign cities. Around the world we go with Briller Jeopardy now. Starting with Berlin. Berlin, Germany, the average
Berlin.
high temperature in
Well,
July.
considering I was, when I was doing that thing a couple of weeks ago, reading the definitions of what heat waves are in some places, the numbers were not quite as high as here. So I'm thinking that they probably have a low threshold for pain there. I don't know. So for Berlin, I'll say, are the numbers in Fahrenheit or Celsius, or does it matter which?
Fahrenheit.
Um, I'll say 82.
Well, there's no need to go much farther because the very first temperature that was posted on the chat board was by Jason Fox, and that was the actual temperature of the question, 75
That's the average high for July.
in Berlin, Germany. That's what he said.
Nice, nice.
How about the next one would be Athens, Greece.
Oh, that's got to be hot. I would say 97.
Oh, that's much. The average high, Joe.
It's too high.
It's much too high.
Well, I've never been to Berlin. I've never been to Greece. Um, the chat board seems to be putting up 88, Carol DeCara, 89, Christinapedia,
89.
90.
That's it. Christiapedia got it.
We
Athens, Greece.
always get these stories about how it's 110 there and the city is burning down. That's why I kind of went with the higher number.
Hey, I can only provide you with what has been provided to me.
I understand.
So how about number 3 on our list is Barcelona, Spain. I've been to Spain. I've never been to Barcelona.
I'll say 91.
That's way up there, Joe.
Really? I've been to Italy. That's the only European country that I've been to. Um, Vincent Croce says 84. Patrick Darcy 81. Rich Rothmansky 84. Chuck Cardillo 84. Norm
Well,
Roberts 82.
I will say that Patrick Darcy, you are in proverbial snake country with your 81.
So it's either 82 or 80. So it's 80.
No. So it's
It's 82.
it's
Well,
82.
that's what Norm Roberts said, 82.
Oh, well, Norm, congratulations. You don't get anything for it, but congratulations. You're right on the nose with Barcelona. I'll give you a bell ring. That's for Norm Roberts tonight. How about Copenhagen, Denmark?
Um, well, Berlin's not that far. You said Berlin was 75. I'll say 71.
That's exactly what Tyler Fenga said, and you and Tyler and Patrick Darcy, 71. All of you are snaking around. But Maggie P gets it. Maggie
70.
P with 70. 70 degrees in Copenhagen for the average high in the month of July.
By the way, it's been very cold for this time of year. It's been pretty chilly up in England, and particularly in Scotland. I was reading the other day that it was snowing in some of the Highlands there in northern Scotland, which is even for July is kind of unusual for them.
And here, the last one, number 5, a place that I have been to, Dublin, Ireland.
Oh, uh, I'll say I'll say 65.
Ooh, if you had only said what Patrick Darcy had said, 60,
67?
and Chuck Cardillo too,
That's
67.
67.
I have been to, I took a flight on St. Patrick's Day, no less, from JFK Airport to Dusseldorf, Germany. but it was not a nonstop. But we stopped at Dublin, Ireland, and I got off the plane and went to the gate to get my next flight to Dusseldorf. I had to wait a couple hours, but I was sitting all by my lonesome, Joe, at the airport in Dublin at 4:30 in the morning. I still think about this sometimes. I'm sitting there. There was nobody else there. There was no other passengers with me, waiting for this next flight. It's 4:30. I looked out the window. It was kind of like foggy, a little drizzly outside, and I said, "So that's Dublin."
Uh, well, St. Patrick's Day in Ireland. I mean, I don't know if that's still the case, if it's still the case, but um, not too many years back, it's kind of a somber day, or at least it was. Maybe they've caught on to what we do in here in the U.S. on St. Patrick's Day, and they've revved it up a bit. But for many years, I would friends of mine whose parents would come from Ireland and visit that I've met, and they would say, St. Patrick's Day in Ireland is you know a pretty somber day. Oh, that's a
Bella Grissi is asking, "Did I have a Guinness?" And I have to tell you, and I mentioned this more than a few times, in my now nearly 68 years on this planet, I have never had a glass of beer. I've never acquired a taste for beer. I'm an embarrassment for my wife every year when she has her German Fest and Oktoberfest, and here all the German men out there chugging, you know, beer at the beer truck or whatever, and here I am, you know, hoisting a Coca Cola or a ginger ale or whatever. So no, I've never had a Guinness, but I will tell you this: when I took it was Aer Lingus, the flight offered, and of course nowadays you go anywhere, you're lucky if they give you a bag of potato chips or or peanuts or something like that. But on Aer Lingus, they said if you want to order a dinner, it cost extra. I think it cost me like $22. I ordered succulent steak. That's exactly how they worded it, Joe. Succulent steak. I think we had a baked potato on the side or like that. I got to tell you something. Here, the wait, the flight attendant is coming down with the rolling table, coming down the aisle. She stops at my seat, and she presents me with the steak. Meanwhile, everybody around me who hadn't ordered is looking at me and watching as I'm eating this delicious,
succulent steak.
succulent. It was succulent, but and like I think one person said, "How come we're not getting this?" I said, "Well, he ordered it special in advance." Or, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know you could order that. Can I order it now?"
Well, I'm glad you had a good eating experience on your flight. That was a good
Thank,
thing.
thank you.
Um, so, on that note, let us remind everybody that the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow, the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Can be yours, and you can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this podcast. Use the coupon code
Summer 2024.
because if you don't use it, you won't get.
You won't get 10% off. And
But if
shame
you
on you for that.
but if you do use it, you will get.
10% off.
There you go.
Hey,
Excellent. Excellent. All right, folks. Everybody have a great evening. We'll see you all tomorrow night at the usual shopping time, which is 7:35. Night night.
nighty night, folks.